So we've seen how to print out the list on the previous slide. So we've seen that we can, we know there's 4 values and we can print out the 4 values by using this iron range 4. But a list can have many items, possibly could have thousands or millions, and we can use these loops. That makes real sense to use the loops rather than the first example where we printed out one item, one line after another. So it really makes sense to use loops to do the processing. And lists are the data counterpart of loops. So loops and lists really go together. Almost all lists you see or arrays in other languages are processed using a loop. So of those 2 examples I showed you just now, that definitely the better one is to use the loop to print the list out, but there's still problems with it. Okay. First of all, the lists, there's 2 problems with it. One is that the list items, when we create that list, we're inserting them one by one line at a time. So what if you make a mistake? It's very easy to get it wrong. So let me just demo that. Suppose I accidentally type fruits 2 instead of fruits 3 when I'm putting the list in and run it. You'll see I get a list there with none as the last item. Okay, because accidentally I've put fruits 2 as being apple and then I've put it to be mango straight away afterwards. So I've told it there's 4 items in the list, but I've only actually filled in 3 of them because I filled in 0, 1 and 2. Okay, so that's a bad way to fill in the list. And secondly, this loop that we had always runs 4 times, regardless of how many items are in the list. Okay, here's the loop. It runs 4 times. So if there's, let's undo that. Let's have another item. So if I run this bit of code, I'm going to get an error. So I'm getting an error because I've added an extra item to the list. There's actually 5 of them, and it's printing. There's 4 of them in the list, and I'm trying to set the 5th one to be something else. Okay, so if I add an extra one, then at the end I get an error, and if I delete one, so let's delete one. I don't get an error this time, but I get that none again because I haven't, when I print fruits 3, it's still set to none. It was set to none at this point here, and it's still set to none. I haven't done anything with it. Okay, so having this fixed value of 4 is a bad idea too. So one way around that is to use the length function, and this is actually this is really common in other languages, maybe not so much in Python, but in other languages it's really common to use the length of the array rather than the fixed value 4. So we can get the length of the list. So we've got our fruits, we can find out the length of that. So we say len brackets fruit, and it will return the value 4. So if fruits has 4 items, then len brackets fruits will be 4. And so what we can do is, first of all, we can, let's talk about the loop first of all. We can loop over the range of the length of the fruits. So fruits has got 4 items, and we can loop over the range of 4, which gives us the value 0, 1, 2, and 3, and that then print those values out. And this, as I say, would be really common in other languages, maybe not so in Python. And the second thing we can do is, rather than setting the values like we did here, get it back to what it was. So here I'm actually setting the values fruits 0, fruits 1, fruits 2, fruits 3. Rather than doing that, we can just append values on the end. So this is a better bit of code, because if we decide we don't want one of those fruits, or we want to add something on the end, nothing changes. Okay, we just add it on the end, and this loop to process it will work. So in this example, len fruits returns 4, and then we use the range to get the indices 0, 1, 2, and 3. So this loop will run the same number of times as the list length. And if we add another fruit to the list or delete one of them, the code still works. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so there's the code. If I run that, prints out the 4 values. If I add another one to the end, and run it, it just prints out the lime on the end. And if I decide to delete something, maybe from the middle of the loop of the list, a couple of things from the middle of the list, and run it, it just replicates what's in the list. So this loop is a very nice way of dealing with the list, and the append is a very nice way of constructing the list, because they shouldn't you shouldn't run into any problems using those two together. But even better is, first of all, if you want to construct the list, and a better way is just to put it all together in one line of code. So rather than using lots of append statements like this, let's go back to what we had. Rather than using lots of append statements like that, we can just say fruits has got the values banana, orange, apple, and mango. Okay, and you can see that's much clearer. That's not so practical if you've got a million items, but if you've only got 4 of them, it's nice and easy to do, because you can just put it on one line of code. We can also use an enhanced version of the for loop to process it. Okay, so if you've got a list, you can use for item in the list and process the item, and that's a really common way of doing it in Python. So for fruit in fruits, we print the fruit, and that will just take each time around the loop, it just takes the next item off the list of fruits. Okay, and the example 3 demonstrates those examples. There's the code. You can see it's nice and neat, and let's just do a quick check of that. So if you've got this declaration, what value does fruits 2 have? Okay, have a think about it, and the answer is apple. It's not the second one, it's the third one. 0 is banana, 1 is orange, and 2 is apple. And what's the list index of orange? And the answer is 1, because it's 0, 1 for orange, and 2 for apple. What value does fruits 4 have? Trick question. There's no item with the index 4. There's 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and then we'll look at creating a print list function.